I've always believed that family is everything. You raise your children, watch them grow, guide them through life, and in return, you hope they'll be there for you when you need them. But sometimes, the people you love the most can hurt you in ways you never saw coming. That's how I ended up standing outside my son's house with my bags in hand, heartbroken and utterly betrayed. I should have seen it coming, I suppose, but I didn't. I couldn't have. It was just a normal Tuesday afternoon when my son, Ryan, called to ask if I wanted to come over for dinner. He and his wife, Amber, had been busy lately with their work and kids, and I hadn't seen them much. I was looking forward to spending time with them, especially with the grandkids. Ryan and Amber had been married for 12 years, and I thought we had a good relationship. I helped with the kids when they needed me, ran errands, and even babysat occasionally. I was more than just a mother-in-law. I felt like I was part of their family. So when I arrived that evening, I was surprised to see Amber sitting on the couch with an expression that didn't match the warmth I'd expected. She didn't greet me with the usual hug or a smile. Instead, she stood up slowly and folded her arms. Her lips were pressed together, and there was something in her eyes I couldn't quite place. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she had just had a rough day. "Hi, Amber," I said, giving her a kiss on the cheek. "Where's Ryan?" "He's in the kitchen," she replied curtly, not returning the hug I'd expected. I shrugged it off, figuring Amber was just tired. I walked into the kitchen to find Ryan, and we exchanged a warm hug. He seemed a little distant too, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Dinner was ready, and we all sat down at the table, but the atmosphere was heavy, uncomfortable. I tried to make small talk. "The kids are doing well, I hope?" "Yeah, they're good," Ryan said. He barely looked up from his plate. Amber, on the other hand, hadn't touched her food. She just stared at me across the table. I could feel her eyes boring into me, but I didn't know why. I wasn't sure if it was a family thing or something else, but the tension in the room was palpable. It felt like I was being watched, judged. As we ate, I tried to bring up old memories, happy moments that I thought would break the ice. "Do you remember the time we went camping, Ryan? You were only 9, and you insisted on roasting marshmallows yourself. Amber, you were there too. We had such a good time." Amber's eyes narrowed. "That's not why we're here, Barbara." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stared at her, speechless. What did she mean? Why was she acting like this? "Amber, what are you talking about?" I asked, my heart starting to race. "What's going on?" "Mom, you need to leave," Ryan said quietly, his voice cold. I blinked, not sure if I'd heard him correctly. "What? Leave? You're not welcome here anymore," Amber said, her voice firm but unfeeling. My chest tightened, and I felt the color drain from my face. I turned to Ryan, searching for any sign that this was a joke, a misunderstanding. But his face was just as hard as Amber, cold and distant. "You're not welcome here anymore," he repeated. I stood up slowly, feeling my legs go weak beneath me. "What do you mean? Why? I've done everything for you both. I've helped you raise your children. I've been here for you. Why are you doing this to me?" Amber stood up too, her eyes glaring at me. "You've overstayed your welcome. Ryan and I have talked about this, and we've decided that it's time for you to leave." I looked at Ryan, pleading with him, but he didn't look back. His gaze was fixed on his plate, and it was clear that he wasn't going to intervene. The shock hit me like a physical blow. This couldn't be real. I had never expected this from my son or his wife. I had been there for them, through thick and thin. I had never once felt that I was a burden, but somehow, in their eyes, I had become one. "Please, don't do this. I'm your mother. I helped you when you needed me. You can't just throw me out," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of my emotions. Amber didn't answer. She just walked to the door and opened it, motioning for me to leave. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my heart racing in my chest. But it was clear that nothing I said was going to change their minds. They had already made up their decision. "I can't believe you're doing this," I whispered. Turning to leave. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt a mix of confusion and hurt flood through me. The door slammed shut behind me, and I stood there in the darkness, my bags in hand, unsure of what to do next. But one thing was certain: I wasn't going to just walk away. I wasn't going to let Amber tear apart my family without a fight. Standing there on the front steps, my heart still pounding, I tried to make sense of everything that had just happened. I could still feel the cold of the night air wrapping around me, but it wasn't just the temperature that chilled me, it was the complete and utter betrayal. The door had slammed shut behind me with a finality that left me feeling more isolated than I'd ever been in my life. How had I gone from being an integral part of their lives to someone who was suddenly unwanted? I could still hear Amber's voice in my head. "You've overstayed your welcome," her words echoed, and I could feel the sharp sting of them. I wasn't just unwanted, I was the problem. And Ryan, my own son, hadn't said a word to stop it. He hadn't defended me. That hurt the most. As I walked away from their house, my thoughts spun in every direction. I had to figure out why this was happening. There had to be a reason. Was it something I had done? Something I hadn't done? Or was it all Amber doing? My heart twisted as I thought about their marriage. Ryan and Amber had been together for over a decade. They had children, my grandchildren, and they seemed happy on the surface. But I knew marriages weren't perfect, no matter how it looked from the outside. Could Amber be causing problems between us? Could she have been manipulating Ryan all along? I didn't have all the answers, but I was determined to get them. I couldn't let this go without understanding why. I was going to find out what Amber was hiding and why she felt the need to push me out of my son's life. The first step was simple. I needed to get my things. I had left my purse, my phone, and my laptop inside their house when the confrontation started. I hadn't even had a chance to grab them before I was shoved out the door. I dialed Ryan's number, hoping he would pick up, but the call went straight to voicemail. I wasn't surprised. I could feel him pulling away, distancing himself, just like Amber had wanted. He wasn't going to help me now. I tried calling again. Nothing. I had no choice. I would have to go back. As I stood in front of their house again, I could feel the anger rising within me. How dare they treat me like this? I had given so much of myself for this family, and now they were treating me like an inconvenience, a burden to be discarded. I rang the doorbell and waited. It only took a few seconds before the door opened, and there she was, Amber. She looked at me, but there was no apology in her eyes. No regret. Just that same cold expression that had haunted me earlier. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice flat. "I'm here to get my things," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I wasn't about to let her see how much she had hurt me. Amber stepped aside to let me in, but she didn't invite me in with the usual warmth. She was acting like I was a stranger in her home, like I didn't belong here at all. I could feel her eyes following me as I walked to the living room, looking for my things. "You've been told to leave, Barbara. What else do you want?" she asked, her words dripping with disdain. "I'm not here to argue with you, Amber. I just want my stuff, and then I'll go," I said. I could feel the tension between us thickening, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of showing any weakness. I kept my head held high, trying to focus on the task at hand. My purse was on the counter in the kitchen, my phone charging on the coffee table. My laptop was in the living room near the bookshelf. I grabbed everything quickly, determined to get out of there as fast as I could. But just as I was about to head for the door, I noticed something, a small leather folder lying on the coffee table. It didn't belong to me. In fact, it looked like it belonged to Ryan. Curiosity gnawed at me. I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. Amber's eyes flicked to the folder, and I could see the shift in her expression. She didn't want me touching it, I could tell, but I ignored her and opened it. Inside, there were several pieces of paper, documents, contracts, and an envelope with a name written on it. My heart skipped a beat as I looked closer at the name on the envelope. Barbara Larson, my name. The envelope was sealed, but there was something off about it. I could feel my pulse quicken as I held it in my hands. What was this? What was Ryan hiding from me? And why was it in Amber folder? What's this? I asked, looking at Amber. Why is my name on this envelope? Amber expression shifted, her eyes narrowing. Give that back, but I wasn't going to. Not now. I tore the seal open, my hands trembling with anticipation. Inside, I found a single sheet of paper. The first few words caught my eye immediately. Barbara Larson is hereby excluded from the family trust. What? My head spun. I read the rest of the document, but it made no sense. This was a legal document of some kind, written by Ryan himself. He had officially cut me out of any inheritance, any claim to the family assets. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was my son's handwriting. He had made this decision, and Amber was behind it. I was sure of it. This is unbelievable, I whispered, holding the paper in front of her. You've been planning this, haven't you? You've been working with Ryan to exclude me from everything. You've taken everything from me, my family, my place in your lives. Amber didn't say a word. She just stared at me, that cold expression never leaving her face. She knew she had won. She knew that, in this moment, I was powerless, but she was wrong. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. I couldn't shake the image of the envelope with my name on it. I had never felt so blindsided in my life. I stood there in their living room, the paper crumpled in my hands, staring at Amber, who hadn't flinched at all. She wasn't even fazed by the fact that I had found the document that proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she had orchestrated my exclusion from everything that should have been mine. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I had just discovered. Why would Ryan do this? Why would he exclude me from everything? Was I really that much of a burden to him? Was this all Amber doing, or had Ryan been complicit in this? From the very beginning, I knew there had to be more to this story. There had to be something Amber hadn't told me, and I was going to find it, no matter what it took. Amber stood there, arms crossed, her expression a mixture of defiance and victory. I could see the satisfaction in her eyes, as if she had won some game, some war between us. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I wasn't going to be discarded like this. I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay calm. Why, Amber? Why would you do this? I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and anger. I don't owe you an explanation, she snapped, her lips curling into a tight smile. You were always in the way, Barbara. You were always hovering, always pushing yourself into our lives. Ryan and I have been trying to set boundaries for years, and you refused to listen. So, we did what we had to do. We made sure you wouldn't cause any more problems. I blinked, feeling the sting of her words. I had tried my best to be a good mother-in-law. I had tried to be there when they needed me. But I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. I wasn't going to let her make me the villain in this twisted version of events. Boundaries, I repeated, struggling to keep my voice steady. You think kicking me out of my son's house and cutting me out of his life is about setting boundaries? You've manipulated him, Amber. You've twisted him into believing that I'm the problem when you're the one who's been pulling the strings all along. Amber face flushed with anger. She stepped closer to me, her eyes narrowing. You don't know anything about our relationship, Barbara. You don't know what it's like to be married to Ryan. He's always been a mama's boy, always running to you for advice, always depending on you. I had to deal with it, and I've had enough. This is our family, not yours. I recoiled at her words. Ryan had always been close to me, yes, but that didn't mean I had interfered in their marriage. I had always respected their space, and I had never tried to come between them. Amber's bitterness was clear, and I couldn't understand why she had become so consumed by it. Amber, you've always had a choice in this, I said softly, trying to remain calm. If you ever felt like I was overstepping, all you had to do was talk to me. But this isn't about boundaries. This is about control. You wanted to cut me out of their lives, and now you've done it. But I won't let you get away with it. Amber's lips twisted into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're already out, Barbara. You've already lost, but I hadn't lost. Not yet. There was more to this, and I was going to get to the bottom of it. The document I had found was just the tip of the iceberg. I could feel it in my gut. Amber had been planning this for months, maybe even years. And now I needed to figure out what else she had been hiding, what she had done to ensure that I had no place in my son's life. I left their house that evening with more questions than answers. I had to be careful. If Amber suspected I was onto her, she would likely do everything in her power to cover her tracks. But I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to let her win. The next morning, I called in a favor from an old friend, a private investigator. I had never imagined I would be in a position where I would need someone like him, but now everything was different. I needed to uncover the truth, and I wasn't going to let anyone, least of all Amber, stop me. The investigator, Mike, was a gruff man in his 50s. He had a reputation for getting things done, no matter how complicated or dangerous the situation. When I explained the situation to him, he listened carefully, then gave me a grim nod. I'll look into it, he said. I've worked cases like this before. Trust me, I'll find out what Amber is hiding. I handed him the document I had found in Amber's folder, and he promised he would get back to me with what he uncovered. As I waited for his report, I couldn't shake the feeling that Amber was playing a much bigger game. I needed to be ready for whatever came next. And when the investigator finally called me back, I was prepared for the worst. Barbara, I've got something, Mike said, his voice low and serious. Amber been involved in something bigger than just you and your son. I've found some financial records. She's been siphoning money out of your son's accounts. It looks like she's been doing this for years, slowly building her own wealth at Ryan's expense. I felt my stomach drop. This was worse than I could have imagined. Amber wasn't just controlling Ryan, she was draining him dry, and all while pretending to be the perfect wife. I asked Mike to keep digging. I needed more evidence. I needed something concrete. A few days later, he called again, and this time, his tone was even more urgent. Barbara, you're not going to believe this, but I found something else. Amber has a secret account, one that Ryan doesn't know about. It's linked to a property she's been hiding. She's been using his money to pay for it, and it's all in her name. She's been planning her escape. My blood ran cold. Escape? What did that mean? Had she been planning to leave Ryan all along? Mike explained further. Amber had been putting money into a trust fund for herself and her children, but it wasn't just for their future. She had been using it to fund her own personal life, her own ambitions, and all the while, she had been manipulating Ryan into thinking that they were financially stable, that everything was fine. I couldn't believe it. Amber had been playing both sides, pretending to be the perfect wife while secretly plotting to take everything from Ryan, and I had been too blind to see it, but now I had the proof I needed. Now, I had something I could use to take her down. I had spent days, sleepless nights, piecing together every shred of information that Mike had gathered. With each passing hour, my anger towards Amber grew. The woman who had once seemed so charming, so in control, was nothing more than a liar, a manipulator, a woman who had betrayed me, my son, and even her own children for the sake of her own greed. She had been living a lie, and now I had the proof. The weight of the truth hung heavily in my chest as I prepared for the confrontation. I couldn't allow Amber to get away with this, not after everything I had uncovered. I wasn't going to stand by while she tore my family apart. Mike had been thorough in his investigation, and what he had uncovered was damning. Amber had a secret bank account, one that Ryan had no knowledge of, and she had been funneling money from their joint accounts into it for years. But that wasn't all. She had also secured a property under her name, a property she had been paying for with Ryan's hard-earned money. To top it off, she had a secret trust fund, which she had been building up, preparing for some escape plan of her own. I had everything I needed now. Financial records, emails, even a trail of receipts that linked Amber to this web of lies. and I was going to confront her with it all. The plan was simple. I would meet her at their house, where I would lay everything out on the table. I would show her the evidence and demand answers. I would make her explain herself, and I would make sure she understood the consequences of her actions. I wasn't going to let her manipulate Ryan anymore. It was time for him to know the truth. I arrived at their house in the late afternoon, determined to get this over with. The sun was starting to set, casting an orange glow over the street as I approached the door. I rang the doorbell, feeling a wave of dread wash over me. This was it. There was no turning back now. Amber answered the door, and when she saw me standing there, her expression shifted just slightly. She had a smug, almost victorious look in her eyes, as if she knew I would come back. But she wasn't ready for what I had in store. "What do you want, Barbara?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice calm but firm. Now, she stepped aside, allowing me to enter. I could tell she wasn't pleased about this, but she didn't stop me. I walked into the living room, where the tension was thick, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Amber took a seat on the couch, and I stood across from her, my hands trembling as I clutched the folder filled with evidence. The weight of it was almost too much to bear. "You've been lying to Ryan," I said, looking directly at her. For years, Amber's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about everything," I said, my voice rising slightly. "The money, the accounts, the property you've been hiding. You've been stealing from Ryan, and you've been planning to take him for everything he's worth." She shook her head dismissively. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," I said, pulling the folder out of my bag and placing it on the coffee table between us. "I've seen everything. The secret account, the property you've been paying for, the trust fund you've been building up for your kids. I know about everything. And I'm going to make sure Ryan knows too." Amber's face went pale. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes, but it was quickly masked by a look of defiance. She wasn't going to give in that easily. "You don't know anything," she spat. "Ryan will never believe you." "He trusts me. He always has." "Not anymore," I said, my voice steady now. "I'm going to tell him everything, Amber, and I'm going to make sure you can't manipulate him any longer." Amber stood up abruptly, her eyes flashing with anger. "You think you can just walk in here and destroy everything? You think you can just tear apart my life and get away with it?" "I'm not the one destroying things," I said, standing my ground. "You are. You've been lying to him, to all of us. And now it's time for you to face the consequences." Amber took a step towards me, her fists clenched at her sides. "You don't get it, do you?" she hissed. "I didn't do this to hurt anyone. I did this for my kids, for their future. Ryan has never been the one to take charge. He's weak, Barbara, and I had to do what was best for our family. He never would have done it on his own, so I had to." Her words sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She wasn't regretful. She honestly believed that she was justified in her actions, and that made her even more dangerous. "You've been using your children as an excuse for everything you've done," I said. "But this isn't about them. This is about power, control, and greed. You've been manipulating Ryan, using him to get what you wanted." Amber's face twisted with anger, but there was something else there, to something darker, something more dangerous. "You don't understand," she whispered, her voice low and full of venom. "You don't know what it's like to be married to him. You don't know what I've had to put up with for all these years. You don't know how much I've sacrificed." I stared at her, disbelief washing over me. "You're right," I said softly. "I don't know what it's like to be married to Ryan, but I do know what it's like to be his mother. And I know that you've used him. You've used all of us. And it ends now." For a moment, there was silence between us. Amber was breathing heavily, her eyes wild with anger. But beneath that anger, I saw something else: fear. She knew she had been caught, and she knew there was no way out. "I'm going to make sure Ryan knows the truth," I said, my voice cold. "And when he finds out what you've done, There will be no coming back from it." Amber didn't respond. She just stood there, her fists still clenched at her sides, her eyes burning with fury. But I could see the doubt creeping in now. She knew she was losing control. "I'll tell him everything," I said again. "And then we'll see if he still trusts you." Amber took a step back, her shoulders sagging as if the weight of everything was finally crashing down on her. She didn't say another word. She didn't have to. I turned and walked towards the door, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I had done it. I had confronted her. And now, I was going to make sure Ryan knew the truth. Amber's reign of manipulation and control was finally over. I left Amber House that day feeling a strange mixture of emotions. There was relief, yes, but there was also a lingering weight of dread that hung over me. I had confronted her with the truth. I had forced her to admit, if only in the silence between her words, that she had been manipulating Ryan, using him, and lying to him for years. But that was only half the battle. Now, I had to face my son. The thought of sitting down with Ryan, of telling him everything, filled me with both resolve and a deep sense of sorrow. I had never wanted to hurt him. He was my only child, the person I had raised with every ounce of love I had. But what Amber had done, what she had been hiding, had gone far beyond any hope of reconciliation. She had crossed a line that could not be undone, and Ryan deserved to know the truth. I drove home that evening, the sun sinking low on the horizon, casting long shadows on the road as I tried to prepare myself for what was to come. It wasn't just about exposing Amber's lies anymore. It was about saving my son. He needed to understand that everything he thought he knew about his wife, his family, had been built on a foundation of deceit. And as much as it tore me apart, I was the one who had to deliver that devastating blow. When I arrived at my house, I sat down with a cup of tea and stared at the phone in front of me. I hadn't called Ryan yet. Part of me wanted to delay the inevitable, to put off the conversation that I knew would change everything. But another part of me knew I had to do it now. There could be no more waiting, no more hiding behind the silence that had kept me from confronting the truth. I dialed his number, and as the phone rang, I felt my heart racing. When he picked up, his voice was calm, almost distant. "Hi, Mom," he said. "How are you?" "Ryan, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but strained. I had to hold it together. I had to be strong for him, even though every part of me wanted to crumble. "What's going on?" he asked, a hint of concern creeping into his voice. "It's about Amber," I said, my throat tightening. "I found something. Something that you need to know." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I could hear the uncertainty in his voice, the confusion. He didn't understand yet. He didn't know what Amber had done, what she had hidden from him for so long. "Ryan, I know this is hard to hear, but you need to listen to me. Amber has been hiding things from you. She's been using you, taking money from your accounts, and using your trust for her own gain. She's been planning this for years, and I have the proof." Another long silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line, and I knew he was trying to process what I had just said. But this wasn't something that could be easily understood. He couldn't just take my word for it. I had to show him. I don't understand," Ryan said, his voice shaky. "What are you talking about? Amber would never do something like that." I felt a pang of sorrow for him. He had always trusted her. He had always believed in their marriage, in the life they had built together. But Amber had poisoned that trust, and now Ryan was stuck in the middle, torn between the woman he loved and the truth that was being shoved in his face. "Ryan, I have the documents," I said, my voice firm. "I've seen the bank statements, the records. She's been siphoning money out of your accounts, creating a secret fund, paying for a property that you didn't know about. She's been planning to leave you, to take everything she can and leave you with nothing. You need to see this for yourself." Another silence stretched between us, longer this time. I could hear the sound of his breathing, the tension in the air as he processed my words. Finally, he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can believe you, Mom. This doesn't make sense. Amber been with me for over a decade. She's the mother of my children. I can't wrap my head around it. I understand, Ryan, I said, my voice softening. I know this is hard to believe, but I wouldn't tell you this if it weren't true. I've seen it with my own eyes. Amber has been lying to you, and she's been hiding this for a long time. You deserve to know the truth. There was another pause, this one stretching into what felt like an eternity. Then, I heard a sigh, deep and resigned. Send me the documents, he said. I'll look at them. But Mom, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. I don't know how to fix this. I'll send them to you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. And Ryan, no matter what happens, just remember that I'm here for you. I'm your mother. I'll always be here. I hung up the phone, my heart heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. I had done what I had to do. Now, it was up to Ryan to face the truth, and it would be up to him to decide what came next. I spent the next hour compiling everything I had: bank statements, email exchanges, photos of the property Amber had hidden, the trust fund documents, all of it. I attached it to an email and sent it to Ryan, praying that he would see what I had seen, that he would understand the gravity of the situation. I knew that sending those documents was just the beginning. Now, Ryan had to make a choice. Would he believe me, his mother, or would he choose to believe the woman he had spent his life with? I couldn't control his decision, but I had done my part. I had given him the truth, and I would be there for him, no matter what. The next day, I got the call. Mom, Ryan's voice was shaky, and I could hear the raw emotion in it. I looked at everything you sent me. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Just take your time. I know this is hard. No, I need to say something, he said, his voice cracking. You were right. I didn't want to believe it, but it's all true. I can't believe she's been doing this. I never thought Amber could do something like this. Ryan, I'm so sorry, I said, my heart aching for him. But you need to know that I'm here for you. No matter what happens, I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to go through this alone. I know, Mom. I just don't know what to do now. I'm lost. Take some time, I said gently. Think about what you need to do. But remember, this isn't your fault. Amber made her choices. Now you have to make yours. The silence that followed felt suffocating. I could hear the weight of his heartbreak, the confusion that was settling in. I wanted to tell him that everything would be okay, that we would get through this as a family, but I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed were a blur. The call with Ryan had left me feeling exhausted, emotionally drained. I knew he needed time to process everything, but I could see the weight of it all pressing down on him. The truth was there now, undeniable, in black and white. And as much as I wanted to reassure him, I knew that there was nothing I could say that would take away the pain or the confusion he was feeling. Amber had manipulated him for years, slowly eroding his trust in the people who truly cared for him. And now, Ryan had to decide what kind of life he wanted to live going forward. Did he want to salvage his marriage, knowing what Amber had done? Or would he confront her, expose the lies, and put an end to the relationship that had caused him so much pain? I spent every day waiting for him to call, to tell me what he had decided. I wanted to be patient, but as each day passed, my anxiety grew. I couldn't help but wonder, was he going to stay with her? Could he forgive her? I hoped he would see the truth and find the strength to move on, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the phone rang. My heart skipped a beat as I saw Ryan's name on the screen. I hesitated for a moment before picking up, unsure of what to expect. Mom, his voice was soft but resolute. We need to talk. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but there was something in his tone that made me nervous. This was it. He was going to make his decision, and whatever it was, I had to be ready for it. I'm coming over, he said. I need to talk to you in person. I agreed to meet him at my house, knowing that whatever happened, I had to support him through this. When he arrived, I could see that he was struggling. His face was drawn, his eyes heavy with the weight of what he had learned. But there was also a quiet strength about him, a clarity that had been missing before. We sat down at the kitchen table, the silence between us thick and heavy. He took a deep breath before speaking. Mom, I don't even know where to start, Ryan said, his voice shaking. I've spent the last few days thinking about everything you showed me. I've been looking through the documents, the receipts, everything. And the more I look at it, the more it sinks in just how deep Amber lies go. I don't even recognize the woman I've been married to for all these years. My heart broke for him. I had always known Ryan to be a man who valued loyalty, love, and trust above all else. And now, that trust had been shattered. His entire world had been built on a lie, and I could only imagine how that must have felt. I didn't want to believe it, Mom, he continued, his eyes searching mine. I kept thinking there must be some explanation, some way that this wasn't what it looked like. But there isn't. She's been lying to me, hiding things from me, and I feel like such a fool for not seeing it. Ryan, you're not a fool, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You trusted her. You loved her. You never saw the signs because you didn't want to. But this isn't your fault. You didn't cause this. Amber made her choices. Ryan nodded slowly, but the weight of it all was still there, hanging between us. I know, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. I feel like everything I thought I knew about my life is a lie. My whole marriage, everything. I can't just ignore what she's done. But at the same time, I don't know what to do now. I reached out and put my hand on his, offering him the support I knew he needed. Whatever you decide, I'll be here for you. I know this is hard, but you have to make a choice, Ryan. You can't keep living in limbo. You deserve better than this. You deserve someone who values you, who treats you with the respect and love you've always shown. Ryan's eyes filled with tears as he looked at me, the pain of it all written clearly on his face. I don't even know if I can trust anyone anymore. How do I know what's real? How do I know that Amber wasn't just pretending the whole time? I don't know if I can look at her the same way again. Trust is hard to rebuild, I said quietly. But you have to decide if it's worth it. Do you want to try and repair things with her, knowing what you know? Or do you want to walk away and start over? Ryan's gaze dropped to the table, and for a moment, there was silence between us. I could see him grappling with the decision in his mind, weighing the years of love and commitment he had invested in his marriage against the reality of Amber betrayal. I've made my decision, he said, finally looking up at me. His voice was steady now, filled with resolve. I can't stay in this marriage. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when I know it's not. Amber has lied to me, and I can't forgive her for that. Not this time. I felt a flood of relief wash over me, though it was tinged with sadness. I knew this was the right decision, but that didn't make it any easier for Ryan. I'm proud of you, Ryan, I said, squeezing his hand. You've made a tough decision, but it's the right one. You deserve a future where you can trust the people you love, and you deserve to be happy. I don't know what's going to happen next, he admitted, his voice quieter now. But I know I can't keep living a lie. I have to do this. I have to take control of my life again. I'll be with you every step of the way, I said, my voice full of conviction. You're not alone in this, Ryan nodded, and for the first time in days, there was a sense of peace on his face. It wasn't a happy peace, but it was a step forward. The road ahead would be difficult, but at least now, he had the clarity to move forward. I need to tell Amber, Ryan said, standing up. I need to face her and tell her that it's over. I can't keep living this lie. I'll be here if you need me, I said, standing up to hug him. I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. You're strong, Ryan. You'll get through this. As Ryan left to confront Amber, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and sadness for him. He had made the right decision, but that didn't mean it would be easy. There would be more difficult conversations ahead, more heartbreak. But I knew he had taken the first step toward healing. I just hoped that, in time, he would find peace. It had been hours since Ryan left my house, and the heavy weight of the moment lingered in my chest. I knew he was heading to Amber's house to tell her that their marriage was over, to finally face her with the truth she had been hiding for so long. Part of me wanted to rush over there and be by his side, but I knew he had to do this alone. This was his battle now, and it was time for him to take back control of his life. I just hoped Amber wouldn't try to manipulate him one last time. I sat by the window, watching the sky turn dark as night settled in, the house quiet except for the ticking of the clock. The silence was deafening. I couldn't shake the image of Ryan's face earlier, the sadness, the confusion, and finally, the resolve. It wasn't the first time I had seen him hurt by someone he loved, but this betrayal was different. This time, Amber had crossed a line that could never be undone. I picked up my phone and sent him a quick message. "I'm proud of you, Ryan. Take your time. I'm here for you." The hours dragged on as I waited for any news, for any sign of what was happening. I didn't want to interfere, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. Finally, my phone buzzed, and I jumped at the sound. It was a message from Ryan. "I've talked to her. It's done." I stared at the message, unsure of how to respond. My mind was racing. What had happened? How had she reacted? I quickly typed back, "Are you okay?" What did she say? A few minutes passed before Ryan's reply came through. She tried to deny everything at first. She said I was crazy, that I was overreacting. But I showed her the documents, the bank records, everything. She couldn't deny it anymore. She got angry, started shouting at me, saying I was ruining everything. She even tried to convince me to stay, to forgive her. But I couldn't. I couldn't forgive her for what she did. My heart ached for him, but I knew he had made the right choice. There was no turning back now. The lies had been exposed, and Amber's manipulative grip on Ryan had finally been broken. "I'm so proud of you," I typed back. "You did the right thing. You deserve better than this." A moment later, Ryan's reply came through, and this time, there was a slight sense of relief in his words. "I feel relieved, I guess. It's like a weight has been lifted off my chest, but it's also overwhelming. I never thought it would come to this. I never thought she was capable of doing something like this." I felt a mix of sadness and pride. Amber had been a part of our family for so long, and despite everything, I had hoped for her to be the person Ryan had married. But in the end, she had shown her true colors. It was painful, but I knew it was time for both of them to move on. "You'll get through this, Ryan. You're stronger than you think." I sent one last message. "And when you're ready, we'll figure out what comes next. You don't have to do this alone." The response came quickly, though there was a new calmness in his words. "Thanks, Mom. I don't know what I would have done without you. I'm going to take some time to figure things out. I need to get my head straight." I felt a wave of pride wash over me. My son had made the hardest decision of his life, and while it would take time for him to heal, I knew he was on the right path. The next steps wouldn't be easy, but he had the strength to move forward. The next morning, Ryan came over to my house. He looked different, lighter somehow, as if the weight of the world had been lifted from his shoulders. His eyes weren't as heavy, and for the first time in days, he had a small but genuine smile on his face. "I did it," he said quietly, sitting across from me. "I told her it's over. I'm filing for divorce." I nodded, not needing to say anything else. His decision was final. It wasn't just about ending a marriage, it was about reclaiming his life, his happiness, and his trust in himself. He had faced the truth, and now he could begin to heal. "Good for you, Ryan," I said, my voice steady but full of emotion. "I know this isn't easy, but you've made the right decision. You'll come out stronger on the other side." Ryan nodded, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and relief. "I'm going to move out. I've already started packing. I can't stay in that house anymore, not after everything. I don't want to be there, surrounded by the lies. I understand, I said softly. It's going to be a difficult transition, but you're not alone. You have a family who loves you and will support you no matter what. We talked for a while longer, and though the conversation was heavy, there was also a sense of peace between us. Ryan knew what he needed to do, and he had made the hardest choice of his life. The road ahead would be difficult, but I had no doubt that he would get through it. He had the strength to start over. Later that afternoon, I received a call from Ryan's lawyer. He had already started the process of filing for divorce, and the legal proceedings would begin soon. It was official now. Ryan was taking the steps necessary to ensure his future and the future of his children wouldn't be tainted by Amber deceit, but Amber wasn't done yet. She hadn't given up. I knew that she would fight to keep what she had taken from Ryan, to hold on to the money, the property, the life she had built with lies. And I was sure she would try to manipulate him again, just as she had before, but this time, Ryan was ready. He knew the truth, and he had the strength to face whatever came next. The days following Ryan's decision were filled with a quiet, reluctant peace. He had moved out of the house he had shared with Amber and into a small apartment, and while he was still processing the weight of the divorce, there was a palpable sense of relief in his eyes. It was clear to me that he was starting to reclaim his life slowly but surely. But Amber, I knew, wasn't going to give up without a fight. She had spent years building a life based on lies, manipulating Ryan, and controlling every aspect of their relationship. And now that her world was crumbling, I knew she wouldn't just walk away quietly. I had seen her anger before, and I was certain she wasn't done trying to regain control. I wasn't wrong. 2 weeks after Ryan had moved out, we received a letter from Amber's lawyer. The moment I saw the envelope, I felt a tightness in my chest. I knew this was coming, but part of me had hoped I was wrong, that Amber would finally accept her defeat and move on. But I should have known better. Ryan opened the letter, his face unreadable as he skimmed through it. I stood behind him, my heart racing as I tried to prepare myself for whatever this last-ditch effort might be. "Mom," Ryan said quietly, his voice shaking with a mixture of disbelief and anger. "She's trying to fight for half of everything. She wants the house, the property, the money, everything. And she's threatening to go public with everything. She says if we don't settle with her, she'll expose everything to the media. The trust fund, the secret accounts, everything." My stomach dropped. I had known Amber was ruthless, but this was a level of manipulation I hadn't anticipated. She was willing to burn everything down to expose herself, to expose Ryan, just to try and win in the end. She had no shame, no moral compass. She was willing to destroy everything, including her own reputation, just to take what she thought was rightfully hers. "Ryan, don't let her scare you," I said, my voice firm. "She's trying to play a game, but you don't have to play along. You have the truth on your side. You have the documents. You have the proof. She can't threaten you with lies anymore." "I know," Ryan said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "But she's pulling every string she can. She's using the kids too. She's saying if I don't give her what she wants, she'll make sure I can't see them." I could see the pain in his eyes. The kids were his world, and Amber knew how to use them as leverage. She was trying to manipulate Ryan into giving in, to give her what she wanted, even if it meant destroying everything else. But this time, Ryan wasn't going to back down. He had already made the hardest decision of his life, and he wasn't about to let Amber take the last shred of dignity and control he had left. "We'll fight this, Ryan," I said, my voice steady, though my heart ached for him. "You've done the right thing. You're doing what's best for your children, for your future." "Amber can't control you anymore," Ryan nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. The emotional toll of the last few weeks had been immense, and this last threat was the final test of his resolve. But I knew he was stronger now. He had faced the truth, and he wasn't going to let Amber manipulation pull him back into her web. Over the next few days, Ryan's lawyer worked tirelessly to prepare for the legal battle ahead. We gathered every piece of evidence: bank statements, emails, the property documents, everything Amber had tried to hide. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about stopping Amber from continuing to use and manipulate Ryan. The day of the mediation finally arrived. Ryan and I sat together in the lawyer's office, the tension between us palpable. We were ready for whatever Amber threw our way, but I could feel the weight of it all in my chest. This was it. The final battle. Amber arrived with her lawyer, her face a mask of calm that didn't match the anger in her eyes. She was still trying to control the situation, still trying to convince everyone that she was the victim, that she had done nothing wrong. But this time, the evidence was clear. Ryan had the upper hand, and he wasn't going to let her manipulate him any longer. The mediation began. An Amber lawyer immediately tried to push for a settlement. They wanted to reach a compromise, a way for Amber to walk away with the house and a portion of the assets. But Ryan wasn't having it. He stood his ground, refusing to let Amber walk away with what she didn't deserve. "I'm not giving in," Ryan said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "Not after everything she's done. She can't just take everything and expect me to back down." "I'm not going to settle for that." Amber lawyer tried to push further, but this time, the weight of the truth was on our side. The documents, the proof of Amber financial deceit, the hidden accounts, it all came out. There was nowhere for her to hide anymore. Finally, after hours of back and forth, Amber lawyer realized they couldn't win this fight. The settlement talks broke down, and the mediation came to an abrupt halt. Amber was furious, but she had no choice but to accept defeat. Her threats had been empty. Her manipulation had failed. Ryan was granted full control over the family assets, and Amber was forced to accept a fair settlement, which was far less than what she had hoped for. The house was sold, and the proceeds were divided. Amber would receive a portion, but it wasn't the victory she had envisioned. As the mediation ended and Amber stormed out of the room, Ryan let out a long breath, his face strained but relieved. I could see the tension in his shoulders ease slightly, the burden that had been on him for so long beginning to lift. "You did it, Ryan," I said, my voice full of pride. "You stood up for yourself. You took control of your life, and you didn't let her win." Ryan nodded slowly, a weary smile crossing his face. "I don't know if I'll ever be the same again, but I feel free. I don't have to live in fear anymore. I can finally start over." We walked out of the building together, the weight of the past few weeks slowly falling away. It wasn't over yet. The divorce still had to be finalized, and there would be more difficult moments ahead, but Ryan had won. Amber had lost, and for the first time in a long while, Ryan was in control of his life again. As we stood in the parking lot, I gave my son one last hug. "You've got this, Ryan," I said, holding him tightly. "And no matter what happens, you'll never be alone. I'm so proud of you." He looked at me, his eyes tired but full of gratitude. "Thanks, Mom. I wouldn't have made it through this without you." And as we pulled away, I knew one thing for sure. No matter how dark things had gotten, Ryan was stronger now. He had faced the worst of it, and he was ready to move on, to rebuild his life, his trust, and his future. And as for Amber, she had learned a hard lesson. You can only manipulate and control people for so long before the truth catches up with you.